Then one person got touched, the Honorable Amanyam Shega, when he came to see me when I got an accident. We can actually go to NSSF. I have someone that we can talk to. No sowara kutunga omulimu. So again, the first time we went, met the person, Yangamba, he gave me another appointment, Yangamba Garuka Nyenchi. And for those of you who remember, we actually started an association called National Association of the Unemployed. We started gathering young people, batandike kwerwanaho, batandike kukoraki, kutunga emirimu. But in that, I was not being paid. But I had the other option of going to NSSF, nanye nkakoraki, nkatandika kutunga sente, and I start earning like all the other people. So from the beginning, as young people, oinakuba no manyi no koraki, no yendaki. I've also told people that one of the problems my generation has, we kept looking at ourselves as being too young, you know, to cause change. Too young to have a voice. Nichokura abani bagamba, iraka, space neruganka. You find someone is in their late 30s, vetunana gamba, I'm still young. You guys, have you ever tried to find out at what age General Mugisha Muntu became a general? Have you tried to find out at what age General Mugisha Muntu became a general? Have you tried to find out at what age Dr. Chiza Besije became the state minister and a political commissar? Bakabene myakinga. Betatito no sanga tuli hanu myaka asatu wali na kugamba ndi muto munu, that I'm too young. And actually when they were making a presentation here, Robert, thank you for bringing these youths. For me, I actually felt that there is a category of people that we also need to target. The children. When we are talking about civil wars, nabana abatotsemire koraki kubalekai. We can ask General here, didn't you have kadogos? How old were they? 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Haven't you seen the videos of ADF circulating? They have kids, children of 4 years, 5 years. So if we are going to talk about issues of civil wars, refugees, the crisis, I think there's also that group of children. I think it's easy kubabiha bakakora ulikimwe kubakoraki ekibakwenda. So if those young people banangi abe myaka 5 mukaga, you know, if they were able to do something. There's also another young girl that I admire. She's called Malala. I don't know if you've read about her. She started fighting for the right to education for women and girls at the age of 5 years. Emyaka 5 years. She's the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner. Atakakizene myaka 10. Betchonka ke hayo yarwana bamtera na masasi. Still yakoraki yasigara hamurama. So we cannot be in our 20s and we start saying we are too young. We are not too young to cause change. We are not too young to fight for a better country. We are not too young to fight for good governance. Mbere ndio ninsaka olyangambya nyoka genda kwesimbaho bangamba tinyina mukazi. Yimbanza murole nguba mugamba takozireki taina mukazi. You get it? And for me, honestly speaking, Robert, I'm sorry if I'm diverting, but these are issues that came out and I was touched because this is the life that I have gone through. I was made Deputy Lord Mayor when I was 30 years. 30 years. I'm not married, for your information. You get it? I am not what? I am not married. Hawakuba, I want to ask a question. Are you saying that those who are married are running this country better? Are they running it better? Actually, when I went back to contest in Makerere, the biggest weapon for my opponent was that I am irresponsible because I was not married. She's actually a wife to a professor. That was her biggest campaign tool against me. Nabagambo no wakungamba, I'm irresponsible. I'm number 2 in the whole of Kampala, the capital city. But number 2, I have so many young people that I help. Number 3, ataligamba nkamujumangu housewife, because also my mother is a housewife, but nacho nkakibaza akwa ncho chali ngenda kukoraki kundabyaho. Nagamba nyoti in housewife. Buli akinkwenda chona ni nkoraki nincheshyao. So what does this woman mean by saying that I am irresponsible because I'm not married? But I also realized that there is a problem. General, this abantu bakwenda kusoma. They hate reading. You hate reading. That is why it is easier for someone kuja akakoraki akababiyo. For me, I have not physically met most of the people that I look up to. I've never met Winnie Mandela. I've never met Maya Angelou. I don't know if you know Maya Angelou. I have never met her. But I can tell you her story from the beginning up to the end. And she was never married. I know that the first elected African female president, Johnson Sirleaf, was never married. She got married at 17, yatunga issues, byayanga, beitoke kutamtanga kubaki, kuba president, the first female elected president, and she's highly educated. Not to say that marriage is bad, marriage is good. But for me, it cannot be used as a yardstick. Kugamba on hawakuba huwa aswirwe, therefore nwagenda kukoraki, kukole ebintu. And if you look at the statistics, actually, most people are not legally married. So, okubagambira tuli bantu bengi muno, we are many, that when something like that comes up, you always have to find a way of countering it. Otherwise, obaragomamba bibaza, okagamba tikanyuke ngende kwesereka, nibigenda kubalema. I don't know how many of you know about Robin Sharma. I have read quite a number of his books, and my favorite is The Leader Without a Title, but there's also one called A Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Now, in A Leader Without a Title, huagamba, it doesn't matter. Over in a title, over tagine, you can offer leadership. Hawakuwa mpuliro walona agamba hanu, ngubayitu tubamanyiri. Tumuhulira gano agambire general, ngutubakozireki, tubamanyiri. There's a gentleman called Brian. Ayemerira hanu yabagamba. When I was in Makerere, we even had a drama team. We have done everything, you know, trying to bring about change. We even composed songs and all that. But very few people know that as my story. So nani nkatandika kustrugglinga karabuli. How many of you know that I'm an author? Maybe Roberta akubanyikaire nayo naboki. Abakera hantu bakimani. But Shonka, when I was in Makerere, actually in my final year, Makerere served as a guild vice president. Now there was this tendency of people saying, those who go on the streets, Bayaye, Badoma, amabara gona agamura korek, amabara gona amabi agamura kamanya balimbaga tutekaho. But like I said, habo butamanya no butasoma Because you'll find the same people praising Nelson Mandela, praising Martin Luther King, praising Gandhi for doing the things that we are doing. So to change that, I had to author a book called Is It the Fundamental Change? Bankwata bantu araluzira na marayo 2 weeks. Actually nkabanda ino kumisinga exam zange. Beto aho na usahegu story akana akoraki na gimanya bali batitu. But over time, when you continue fighting, when you don't give up, eventually you'll be recognized. I have told people, I did not look for any of our senior leaders in the party. None. But uliomi agenda TV aro akana akatito. But I was very small abok. No joke. I used to weigh 55 kgs. I was very small. I remember there's a time Kale Kaihura arrested me. Yatin. Yagabetu abatoro mbagambaki. Omwana katumukwasiri. Kankuno kumanya abatoro bali batakozireki. Bali batamanyiri. But awokwa Besigye byagendaga TV Aurora. He sent his personal assistant Mugumya Sam kujja cancer. Kakano akana kainisoka lya blue nkayeta FDC preacher nika. You get it? So at times you don't have to wait. I want to see General. I want to see General. If General sees something unique in you, if there's something that you're contributing, definitely General will be interested in you. And like I have told him today, if he ever hears that I've gone to ANT, he should know that Ahura Ivan has made me join ANT. Aboke omwana ogwo abalize, itwena twabaki, twaba inspired. Nokirora? Hati nyon kirokuno abalize. General abalize, musokusara mukagamba kamugende nka, mwe ANT awokuba General abalize kurungi. So as long as you're making a contribution, as long as there's something that you're doing, definitely you'll be recognized and you'll get a name recognition. And you have to show up when there is an opportunity. I don't think I would have become a Deputy Lord Mayor. There was an election when the KCCA Act was changed. And we had to vote for Speaker. So I offered myself to contest for Speaker. And I was defeated by 2 votes. Yes, by 2 votes. By the it's not the campaign eventually wasn't about me. Buli omwana katanika kundora nka Besigye. There was Besigye versus NRM. It was no longer about me and all that. Akaruru bakoraki bansing. But when I was defeated around that very time, the Deputy Lord Mayor crossed to NRM. Mwakurola wekinkubazi. Hati Lord Mayor gamba betukakabaroho nyanjura esimbire nka habwa speaker. Habwa kutamuhereza obwa Deputy Lord Mayor. So meaning if I had not offered myself for leadership, nkatina, there is no way I would have been recognized to become the Deputy Lord Mayor. So whenever there is an opportunity for young people, an opportunity to offer leadership, stop looking at all the things that are holding you back. Stop looking at all the things that are pulling you down. Start looking at the likes of Nyanjura. Start looking at the likes of Lincoln, the likes of Mandela. These are people from very humble backgrounds. And you also start thinking that you can make it. I always tell people that leadership is not about where you have studied from. It's not about whether you went to Harvard or to Makerere University, but as long as you believe in yourself. So I want to leave it at that, but allow me to briefly comment about today's topic. I'll just make a few comments about it. Now, to begin with, I was actually reading at the concept paper that was given to me. And it was claimed, by the way, that one of the reasons that we have unemployment in this country is because of the high population growth. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that? Some of you are saying yes. But for me, my answer is no. And allow me give you an example. That Japan is the same size as Uganda. And 60% of that area is covered by forests. However, the population of Japan is 125 million. The population of Uganda is projected to be at how much? 45 million. 45, 48 million. But the unemployment rate in Japan is at 3.3%. The unemployment rate in Uganda, the same size as Japan, a smaller population than Japan, currently they say the official statistics stand at 14%. So is it still a problem of numbers? Is it still about the increase in numbers, high population growth rate? So the challenge is the kind of plans and the kind of leaders that are governing us. And for me, we can talk, the reason why we have refugees coming here. The major reason is because of wars. Nimbia? Nimbia? The major reason is because of the civil unrest. Abantu mbaija hano harawagambye kandi Uganda is it the most peaceful? It is not. But chonka kuli because rek bibakizira amani. Bana bakulembeza abakwiza batakwenda kuruga mu ntebe. Still you'll find the problem still goes back to leadership and good governance. Of course there are some other factors, issues to do with climate change. Floods, nebindi byona. Betato turatandika kwiruka Kampala. Naito maragamba nge climate change. Still it is an issue to do with good governance. Because in countries with good governance, still issues to do with climate change are addressed. Not so? So for me, the whole question goes back to the question of good governance. And lastly, Haroho Owabalize, I think she was one of our ladies here. Ovamkagwize, if you get an opportunity to go to Canada, no again. Of course. But you people, I want to tell you that the grass is actually not greener that side. And that if we had a choice, no one would have wished to leave their country again ahead. General was in the US last year. Ugandans can work, my friend. They work during the day and they work at night. Because that is how they can survive. The bills are high. Inyo mukwano mugamba kubyama kuli mbamba koraki mbaba kora. Kandi emirimo ibakujerega hano. Kuli ni emirimo ibakoraki ibakora. But do you know why they are doing that? Because in those countries there's what we call a minimum wage. Munobo kubo noenda kukorwa housemaid no kuba noenda kukoraki. Inywana mwina sente zigenda kuba haki kuba hesektinis. So for me, the problem still goes back to the issue of leadership. And the answer lies between you and me. And the answer lies among us, the young people. In conclusion, I don't know how many of you were following the debate. There's a time when Donald Trump threatened that he was going to build a wall so that refugees from North America do not get access to the US. So meaning even developed countries are actually finding it very hard to deal with the issue of refugees. But currently, like you know, Europe is undergoing one of the biggest, one of the highest refugee crises because of the war in Ukraine. However, that is not my message. My message is that as Africans, we are brothers and sisters. Zunu borders ezumukura manya yenu Kongo manya irinkaha. These are things that were brought in by imperialists. So we should stop looking at each other as refugees. These are things that were created by people who are not from here. So let us continue welcoming one another, and let us continue loving one another. And I am confident that this world will be a better place for all of us. And I should end with this, that we must remember that a hungry man is an angry man, and an angry man is a violent man. We therefore cannot promote peace amidst poverty. Can I repeat it? A hungry man is an angry man, and an angry man is a violent man. We cannot therefore create peace amidst poverty. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to once again to profoundly thank the organizers of this dialogue, because like the Bible says, happy are the peacemakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I think the hand clap was not enough. And that answers a lot of questions within us. And these are practical answers, not theoretical, not from a textbook, but from life stories. Thank you so much, Honorable Nyanjura, for that wonderful presentation. And as a matter of time, I would want us to have enough time to ask our questions. So I will invite the colleagues from the Ministry of Gender and Labor. They present, they finish, and we ask at once. So I hand over back to you, sir, to take us through the presentation you had prepared for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ivan. Now I have that invaluable task of speaking after politicians, but you'll bear with me. You'll bear with me. When they told me Doreen would be around, I thought we'd find this place inundated with those people that normally surround her and follow her. But it seems you are borrowing a little bit of tactics from the general. Yeah, so all protocol again acknowledged. My name is Stuart Oramire. I'm the Executive Director of UWERA, which in full stands for Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agencies. We are based at BMK Hotel Africana. I'm also a practicing lawyer. So I have my colleague here, my learned sister, and my colleague seated across, and a few other members present that I may not have recognized. A little bit of a personal story. When Doreen asked us, what do we know about General Muntu? All of us had our ideas, but I said humility. So some years back, I walked into a bank. It's based in Nakasero. I was a young man with a few coins. And you know how a young man feels when they have some bit of money on their account. So I swagger into the bank and I jump the queue, like politicians say. and I tried to look behind. There was General Muntu. He can't remember this, of course. And when I felt the smallest I have ever felt, and I'm not a big person. So when I look back, the gentleman is like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. For me, it points to the kind of person we have. And again, she said, do you know the age at which this person became a general or even the army commander of this country? If his communication, I don't want to say it because Nyanjura knew it and she never mentioned it, so I will not mention it, but I know it. That what matters here is that his powerful communication, but also what he has become as a citizen of this country, should be a powerful reminder of what we can do, and I mean you, as young people. And now we had the other person, the poet, who fortified the same message, and Nyanjura has further reiterated what the general communicated. It's very important that we listen and pick very noble ideas from what they have said. So, someone also at one time said that I resemble General Muntu, and I was like, this man is very handsome, he's there, and I'm below him. I was like, these physical attributes, no. But beyond the physical attributes, for me it was the highest compliment because I know what he represents. And if I can represent even half of his attributes, for me it's a success. So quickly to labor externalization. Last night, like I normally do when I come to Fort Porto, I went for my beer at Mountains of the Moon. And sauna, yeah. I normally don't run out from the fact that once in a while I can have that beer. So as I was exiting the sauna going for my beer, I meet this young lady who I helped travel out of the country. She was going to be, I know you don't like it, but she was going to be a maid in some of these Arab countries. So she came back with a little bit of money, invested it, as I was informed last night, and currently she's doing a business worth 300 million in Fort Porto here. She had her 2 children, and they were having fun not in the smallest of hotels around, but in one of the biggest hotels, if not the biggest, isn't it? Mountains of the Moon. So for me, it points to the fact that labor migration, or labor externalization like we call it, presents a certain opportunity for the young people that you can tap into and that can change your life. It has changed the lives of many people. So what is labor externalization in the first place? Labor externalization started in Uganda in 2005. And by then, we had Ugandans, of course, traveling out of the country for work as migrant workers, but not at the scale we are doing it now. Because now we have institutionalized it. So what happens is that the government started that program with the intention of helping skilled, non-skilled, and semi-skilled Ugandans to go and tap into the opportunities that exist in countries away from Uganda. Now, once this started, then some challenges also crept up along the way. And the question now, or the issue has been, how government has been able or has not been able to respond to the issues that face the sector. But this is the sector that employs hundreds of thousands of Ugandans outside Uganda. It has created numerous opportunities. Many people, their lives have changed. But most importantly, they have contributed to the growth of this economy because we are receiving over $1.8 billion? My colleague is going to talk about this in form of remittances. And economists have told us that this is almost 4.7% of Uganda's GDP. So it's a sector that is contributing so much to the economy of this country. But because we have had issues around government acknowledging and also regulating it better, that's where the issues come from. But I will not go into those, lest I have problems with my colleague from Ministry of Gender. I come from the private sector, and for us as business people and like politicians, we are very careful attacking government sometimes in public. Of course, we engage privately, but we have those issues. Quickly again on what UWERA stands for. UWERA is an organization that brings together over 300 companies that externalize, that send labor out of this country. And as we speak now, we have only one bilateral labor agreement, a framework that brings between two countries around which there's a protection framework around which a country is able to send its citizens or migrant workers into another country, and this country is able to offer some kind of protection so that these migrant workers are not abused. So currently we have only one bilateral labor agreement with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and we are largely taking their maids. Maids are, I think that derogatory term we used to use of house girls, isn't it? But the better term I think is domestic workers who are housemaids. Yes, I know this is a much maligned sector, and I'm not shy to acknowledge that, but I have to give you facts as they are, isn't it? So the other one is we have engaged government, especially at the time I joined, that we have to move off from semi-skilled, non-skilled migrant workers to skilled migrant workers. So as we speak now, we are opening 3 markets, and I think again Raymond will come back to this. We are going to be opening Qatar, we are going to be opening Oman, Jordan. We have also gotten opportunities in Poland, Canada, and like Kenya is doing, Germany and France. And our intention is that now we concentrate on creating opportunities for only skilled migrant workers. For example, in Poland, we're going to be taking nurses, if we can have the numbers, because we also need our numbers here. We're also going to be taking English teachers and lecturers for universities. Doreen, do you hate that for your people? Skilled migrant workers. If I was on a political talk show with the Honorable Namboze, she hit me as you would expect. After the talk show, she told me that, can you get me opportunities for 200 people? Are you getting me? So Doreen Nyanja would not agree with me, and she would love, like most of us would love to have our people here, but where opportunities cannot, and yet we need to empower our people, I think it's not an entirely bad venture to participate in, and if it creates opportunities for you, so be it. What UWERA does as the association, fortunately, recently government finally apportioned a certain budget to Ministry of Gender to strengthen the monitoring of our migrant workers in these countries, like Philippines is doing and other countries. Kenya is trying, but not doing so well. So what we have done now for us as the association, we have deployed in these countries monitoring agents, we call them coordinators. And the intention here is that where government might not have the resources to deploy labor attachés in the missions, then as the private companies, we have our people who follow up these girls and gentlemen in these host countries with the ultimate objective of ensuring that whenever they have issues, the issues are quickly addressed and our migrant workers' rights and welfare is respected but also promoted. So the opportunities abound, especially in relation to the skilled labor in the coming months, for nurses, for teachers, and certainly they earn comparatively better than we do here. And one of the reasons, like again Doreen correctly put it before you, it's because the minimum wage law we have in this country dates as far back as 1981. So the minimum wage, yes, we have the law, but the minimum wage of this country is currently at 8,000, meaning that at my home, I can afford to pay my maid to, how much? Since the minimum wage is 8, I can pay them 8 or 10,000, and no one will take me to where? To the labor officer. In these countries, they have minimum wage, which is even way above what we pay for our decent employees in this country. So the opportunities are many, and we have tried to make sure that they reach as many Ugandans as possible, and we'll continue to do that. Now, for those of you who think that we don't have laws, we don't have regulations and protection frameworks in place, my colleague is going to take us through that. We even have a strong, stringent system that regulates licensed companies. The problem we have had is that we have had these non-licensed companies and individuals who are trafficking Ugandans, and those are the ones who are causing us trouble. If you go to, I was in Egypt, I was in Cairo, and I found there 2,000 Ugandans. 2,000 Ugandans who are stuck. 2,000 Ugandans. I went to Oman. Oman. We have over 5,000 Ugandans who are stuck. All these were trafficked. They never went through licensed companies. And we also have some licensed companies that are trafficking Ugandans. So we have to be careful when we make up our minds to leave the country, which companies and which persons we go to. Otherwise, you end up being a victim of trafficking and doing things other than those for which you went into these countries. So I want to implore you, for those who can explore opportunities, please come to us. We are at BMK Hotel Africana. And if you can get a better opportunity that helps you grow further your career, you better pursue that. But if you also feel that they are, and I agree with Doreen, it's better to stay in our country if we can, for those who are lucky to get employed, who are lucky to create employment. But rather than remain disempowered because you never pursued opportunities beyond Uganda, we welcome you. You get me? We welcome you. But be careful who you deal with, which company you deal with. So at this point, I don't want to bore you so much. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, especially the organizers, Mr. Robert and Mr. Mutu, and your colleague. I also want to thank us for giving us this opportunity to come here and share with you, and to give me the opportunity to rightly tell you without any shame that I can assure you that there are opportunities that you can tap and benefit from and grow if you worked with us in the right way. I wish you the best. Thank you so much. So at this moment, let me welcome my colleague from the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. You are welcome.
Thank you very much. Stuart, I don't know whether you mentioned your other name. He's called Mr. Stuart Oramire. He's the Executive Director of Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agencies, the body that brings together all licensed companies, external licensed companies that are licensed by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. Thank you very much. I think you've made my work very simple. I'm now just going to rush through. So, Your Lordship, the Deputy Mayor of Kampala, Honorable Doreen Nyanjura, thank you so much for coming and gracing the youth conference. Retired Major General Mugisha Muntu. Those who didn't know, by the way, General Mugisha Muntu was the first army commander of this country. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but he's here to attest. General Mugisha Muntu here is one of the first army commanders of the country. Nowadays they are called CDFs, Chief of Defense Forces. We are really very grateful for you. I've always been seeing him, but you can imagine we are now here rubbing shoulders together. We have listened to his wise counsel, and he has really tipped us on very good measures in as far as security is concerned. He also tipped us on issues to do with the externalization of labor, and I'm going to allude to some of them here. Then the officials from Conrad, Adenwa, Stefan, through which we who we're coordinating with, and have also managed to finance this conference. Madam Lucy and team, we recognize you and thank you very much. Then the organizer, Robert Mutunzi, who has really managed to gather all the youth in this room. I don't know where he is. Is he within? Yes, we appreciate. My fellow invited panelists and the facilitators who have managed to present here since morning. Then the district leadership present. I saw councillors around and some, I think the speaker. Then of course the youth, all of you in your respective capacities, I greet you all. Muli muta abantu be Tooro. Muli kurungi? Muli kurungi? My name is Raymond Wasukira. I work for the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development as a senior labour officer. I was sent here on behalf of the ministry to come and talk about externalization of labour. So this is what I want to talk about, externalization of labour. The retired major talked about the beauty of Tooro. It's not the first time I'm here. Actually, before I joined the government, I worked in Tooro here for 1 good year. I was in Tooro here, and believe you me, Tooro is the best region in this country where anybody would admire to come to. So it's not by any mistake, it's not by any chance. The retired major talked about it. We have all the good sceneries. So while you are seated, you should be knowing that. So I'm really delighted to be in the region once again, and in most cases, and most especially to give you a hint on externalization of labor, because this is one of the areas that are very pertinent. When you go to parliament, there's a time actually our minister was in parliament almost every 2 weeks answering issues to do with externalization of labor. Later on, when you see the presentation, you will see a number of stakeholders, RDCs, I'm glad Conrad works democracy, members of parliament, private sector players, and other categories of people who bring and continuously raise issues to do with externalization of labor. And of course, it is perceived as a sector that is exploitative. But what is the government doing for that matter? So these are some of the things we want to look at. So that is about externalization of labor, and of course, we are here purposely to increase our awareness on migration issues as well as getting your voices, like it was said earlier. So your voices have to be heard, but we shall also tell you what government is doing. What is government doing for that matter? How are we regulating the conference? So the conference was dubbed Safe Labor Migration as an Engine for Uganda's Socio-Economic Development, in quotes, unpacking opportunities and challenges. So you can imagine. But before I go into that, allow me to briefly talk about the initiatives that we have as a country here. Stuart from the private sector clearly said that we have initiatives as government. But what is Ministry of Gender, first of all? Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development is a social service delivery ministry. It is a ministry that brings together very many players. We have various departments. We have various youth programs. What is our mandate? Ministry of Gender is a cabinet-level ministry whose mandate is to empower citizens to maximize their individual and collective potential by developing skills, increasing labor productivity, and cultural enrichment to achieve sustainable development. So that is the mandate. We are there to do that, to ensure that there is achievement of sustainable development, there is increased labor productivity, skilling is taken part of the youth. We have various skilling initiatives. So you can see. And it is a ministry that has all categories of people. We have women. It is a ministry of women. That's why you hear gender. Actually, our honorable minister in charge of gender and women, I think, comes from Bunyangabo here. Is that Tooro region? Yes, Honorable Peace Mutuzo is our minister in charge of culture. So we have women there under Ministry of Gender. The youth are under the Ministry of Gender. The Honorable Minister, Sarah Nyibarishiriti, is the State Minister for Youth and Children. It is also a Ministry of Older Persons, with a State Minister for Elderly Affairs. So you can imagine, see what the ministry, it is a Ministry of Women, it is a Ministry of Youth, it is a Ministry of Older Persons, it is also a Ministry of people with disability. There are various initiatives for persons with disability under the Ministry of Gender. Older persons have a program called SAGE, where they get a monthly stipend. Those who are above 80, but now we are trying to see how to, the minister the other day was saying, okay, I think 65, you see? So you can see, it is also a ministry for people who work within Uganda. We have talked of jobs within Uganda. Before we think of going out, do we have jobs in Uganda here? And what are we doing about them? And how do we get them anyway? It is also a ministry where we deal with people who opt to go and work abroad. So you can imagine the Ministry of Gender is very big and broad. I think it is one of the ministries that takes all categories of people. So we can imagine. Stuart has already taken us through very many initiatives, but I just want to now take you through the presentation. I've been already guided here that time is not our best early. It has been so exhaustive, but allow me to first take us back to the first slide. Now, look, what is this? Externalization of labor. This picture is of people. Can anybody guess where this is? This is the first place I saw also retired Major Honorable, retired Major Mugisha Muntu. One day I was working at the airport, because I've been in this sector, I'm in this department of employment services. We do clear the migrant workers. So I think Honorable, the retired Major, passed, but he did not recognize me much as I recognized him, and he was in a hurry. So I let him go. So Honorable, I'm really very glad once again to meet you here for today. So that is the departure. These are the people we have been talking about who are going out to work, who have been cleared by the Ministry of Gender. These are licensed companies. So they go through the departures, after clearances, after checking them, and they depart. Next. Introduction to migration for work abroad. So what is migration? Migration is as old as humanity, and with globalization, this is not about to change. So migration has been old. Many of us are migrant workers, I want to believe. Those who were born here, go and find jobs in Kampala. Those who were born from Kampala, go and find jobs where? So it is as old as humanity, and it has been in place. So unsafe, disorderly and irregular migration is a development failure. This is a failure. Migration which is disorganized, disorderly and irregular. So with migration policy planning, which is primarily the role of the nation state in ensuring safe, orderly and regular migration, the government is responsible for ensuring safe, orderly and regular migration. So this is where now the ministry comes in. In 2005, we came in as a ministry to regulate the sector. That is when externalization of labor started. But before it was irregular, safe, with no coordination mechanisms. So we do not do this alone. We have various stakeholders that we work with. And of course, government recognized the risks associated with individuals being placed abroad by traffickers. Before externalization was regularized, we had cases of trafficking in persons, where people were going through illegal means, through the porous borders and others. And the government also recognized that people cannot be forcibly stopped from seeking jobs abroad. That's why the sector came in or was established. Next. So in the absence of a regular pathway for placing people abroad, traffickers become the only option. So government recognized the risks with individuals being placed abroad by traffickers, And government also recognized that people cannot be forcibly stopped from seeking work. So the solution is this, to introduce a safe, orderly migration. And therefore, it's not for encouraging Ugandans to go abroad, but to establish an alternative mechanism. This has been established as a short-term mechanism for employment purposes. Not that we are saying that it is a solution. No. That's why we have the regulations. I've only come with one copy here. But these are the regulations that govern externalization of labor. I'm glad to announce that the regulations were revised from 2005 to 2021 with very many stringent measures. The measures are so stringent that affect the perpetrators of the sector. So high unemployment levels in 2021, you can imagine. Unemployment was 12%. Then, of course, long-term employment was at 47%. Combined rate of unemployment and time-rated unemployment was at 20%. UBOS conducted the Uganda National Labour Survey report, and the findings were disseminated in December last year. So these are some of the statistics that were given to us, and we keep on noting, because it's a 5-year period survey which covers the entire country. So what was the unemployment rate? Estimated at 20%, you can imagine, 2021. And the growing population which stimulates migration was at 3%, as per the UBOS, Uganda National Labour Survey report of 2021. We recognize that there is high underutilization of the youth labor force. In the morning, there was mention of who is a youth. We had various answers, you can imagine. So 18 to 30 years, equivalent to 9.3 million. So that amounts to 37%, or 3.4 million are in employment. Youth unemployment in Uganda stands at 17%, or 1.8 million youth. You can now see the statistics of the youth unemployment rate. The youth, of course, have been the predominant majority. Around 2019, the youth were about 65%. Currently, we have the youth of this country at about 87%. You can imagine. So this is it. The youth unemployment. Can we go next? So these are the push factors. 41%, or 3.8 million youth, are not in employment, not in education, and in any training. This is a time bomb. Where are our youth? As per the Uganda Labour Force Survey report, we have a total of 41% of the youth out of the percentage I talked about. They are not in any employment, they are not in any education, and they are not in employment. So where are they, and what are they doing? This is the question we ask ourselves. And what is the government doing about it? You see? The low level of wages, medium wage of Uganda shillings 200,000, means that you earn more than 49% of all employed persons. So you can imagine, low level of wages, which is a medium wage of 200,000 shillings, which somebody earns. Pull factors, we also have high rates of GBV, gender-based violence, as per UBO survey report of 2021. These are factors that entice people to go and look for jobs abroad. Note, lifetime prevalence of intimate partner social violence among ever partnered women was 45% to 55% experience some act of emotional abuse in their lifetime, and 62% have initiated physical violence. So you can imagine, these are the statistics we are getting from what we call gender-based violence. Next. Why do people crave to go and work abroad? I told you that going to work abroad is by choice. It is not a mechanism. Otherwise, we have the potential. The Honorable Deputy Lord Mayor mentioned that if you can, please stay. It is not as green as you think it is there. If you will come and ask any of us who is in the ministry, who do this on behalf of government, because we are running the sector, I will tell you, no, please stay here if you can. You see, we have heard of cases. Government has tried, but because of the meager, limited resources, we cannot do much. You have heard of violations. You have heard of mistreatment. Some of you, if not all of you, have relatives or a friend or a person you know who is abroad. But we cannot say that everything is okay there. So, but above all, these are some of the things. We appreciate that there are high wages. For example, somebody who is doing domestic work in the Middle East earns an average Uganda shillings of 900,000 compared to somebody who earns 200,000 here. So that is what the contract says. Then, of course, good welfare system. When people go there, we find that they come to learn about positive labor migration policies. They get new skills and come and utilize them here at the end of their contract. Then there are also availability of employment opportunities. So to note that the higher wages are the biggest pull factors. People want to go abroad simply because of the high wages. It is a mechanism, a short-time mechanism. I've talked of the feeder. In the Middle East, somebody earns an average. For example, a housemaid in the Middle East earns an average of 900,000 Uganda shillings compared to somebody who is in Uganda. So these are some of the pull factors. But we are saying that aren't there no mechanisms of initiating employment, including people who have finished the university. The only problem we have is, I think, the skilling mechanism is very poor. If you look at what we are doing at school, is not matching with what is in the job market. The skills you attain vis-a-vis the skills that are required in the job market are not matching, and that is where the problem is. Next. These are the trends. I don't want to talk so much about this, but since the 70s to 86, we saw that there is mass movement of professionals due to political instability. From around 86 to 2005, before we regularized the sector, we had mixed movement and return and reintegration. From around 2005 to date, that is when we regularized externalization of labor program to be safe, regular, orderly, and dignified migration. Whereas in the past, these processes took virtually unlocked. It is only in the last 3 decades that migration has become an issue of a growing concern, not only to Uganda, but also to the international community. And this is attributed to the increased volume of flows of migration in the recent. Next. What is labor migration governance? These are some of the laws and policies that the ministry has come up with. Or what are we doing as far as labor migration is concerned? We have bilateral labor agreements with the countries. The ministry is not responsible for migrant workers who go to countries where the ministry has not signed bilateral labor agreements with. So for that matter, the ministry has signed the bilateral labor agreement with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Jordan. Just last month, about 2 weeks ago, the Honorable Minister was in Jordan to revive the bilateral labor agreement, which was suspended, and the United Arab Emirates. So for now, these are the countries we have bilateral labor agreement with. So if you know you have a relative, a friend who is in Oman, and they are having all sorts of mistreatments, these are now cases that we partner with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because the ministry does not clear people who go to countries where we don't have a bilateral labor agreement. The National Employment Policy of Uganda of 2012 is currently under review by the ministry, and we have included and incorporated aspects of labor migration. We have the Mother Law, the Employment Act of 2006. The Honorable Woman Member of Parliament of Chegegwa is the chairperson of the Gender Committee of Parliament, and she has been spearheading this employment bill, which is currently before the President for assent. Then, of course, we have the employment. This is the book I was talking about, which regulates the external recruitment companies that externalize or take people abroad for work. So it is called the Employment Recruitment of Migrant Workers Regulations abroad. No company is whatsoever supposed to charge any migrant worker placement fees, because the monies that the companies use for placing migrant workers are paid by the foreign recruitment agencies, which are also in the countries of destination. So, if at all you are here, we have heard of cases People have sold land, people have sold this, and they have exploited a lot of money. So it's because of ignorance. But we as a ministry have tried to disseminate this information through barazas, community meetings. We have had engagements with stakeholders. The labor officer of the district, I was even talking to him this morning. Why is he not here? He was telling me he's not aware. But these are our representatives in the districts and the municipalities. They are supposed to guide the youth. They are supposed to guide those who wish to go and work abroad. Next. Continuation. These are some of the laws and the stakeholders that the ministry works with. Ministry of Internal Affairs, Ministry of Internal Affairs, the ones who are in charge of passports, Foreign Affairs, for diaspora management and consular services. Then we, the Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Education and Sports, East African Community, UBOS, statistical data, security agencies, which vet the directors of these migrant workers, and of course the recruitment companies which are in this business of labor externalization. Next. So in a bid to manage the unemployment pressure and maximize gains of labor migration, government initiated this program of externalization of labor, and of course it is regulated by the instrument that I've just shown you here, which is the employment regulations. And under the regulations, private companies are licensed to source and formally place migrant workers abroad for work. So this is the duty of the licensed agencies that the ministry licenses to recruit on the behalf and place migrant workers abroad for work. Next. What are the channels if one wants to go and work abroad? How should they move? Many people do not know that they are supposed to go through a licensed company. But bear in mind that we also have companies that are not licensed, companies that are not recognized by the ministry, and we have had a lot of cases. So we encourage that go through the labor officer. They have all these lists for those who wish. I'm not saying for those who want, oh, you should go. So those who feel, go through the licensed companies, which places them abroad. We also have an individual initiative where migrant workers source for jobs as individuals and apply. We have an online system called the External Employment Management Information System, through which application is sought to place migrant workers abroad. And even for the companies, the licensing process is through that External Employment Management Information System. Next. To promote full employment and equality of employment opportunities for all, and to uphold the dignity and rights of Ugandan migrant workers. That is the purpose of the regulations here, because we expect that all the recruitment agencies should adhere and follow what is in the regulations. We have punitive measures like suspension of licenses, deregistration, and all that for those who violate the laws. To protect every Ugandan desiring to work abroad by recruiting the best possible terms and condition of employment, the recruitment agencies have a duty to protect migrant workers. Regulation 69 talks about this. And also to provide a mechanism for issuing licenses to recruitment agencies. That is the role of the Ministry of Gender. Next. What are the processes under the externalization of labor program? Licensing. We currently have a total of about 406 recruitment agencies which have to fulfill all the requirements that we need. I may not go into detail so much because these are for the recruitment agencies. They have to be Ugandans, the directors. The ministry has to inspect their premises to ensure that they meet the criteria. The directors have to be vetted by ISO, all that. Next. All those things, they have to go through registration. They have to have a bank. This regulation indicates that one of the measures to strengthen the sector is that the recruitment agency has to guarantee a fee of 100 million with the Ministry of Gender in the bank of their choice. Previously it was 50 million, but because we had many players who wanted to enter the industry, so we decided to amend or revise the regulations to put it at 100 million. So we think this will regulate and restrain a few players. Next. These are also licensing requirements. We may not go so much into detail, but guarantee. Next. Job order approvals, this is also something that the recruitment agencies have to do. Foreign recruitment companies are accredited also. We also have foreign recruitment companies in the other countries of destination. So they also have to be accredited, and they submit their job order approvals. This is where they submit to these companies to, when they want job order approvals, they have to submit and they have to be reviewed by the ministry. And those are the requirements they have to submit or to meet. These are also the requirements: demand letter, sample contract, powers of attorney, service agreement, passport copy, and of course the status report. These are the requirements we want from them normally as a ministry. This is just to give you a snapshot of the requirements. Next. These are the processes. You can imagine. Uganda embassy, we have an embassy, for example, in Saudi Arabia, which accreditates the foreign recruitment companies. The Ugandan embassy issues job orders. The Department of Employment Services, where I belong, approves the job order for the companies. Then, of course, we have migrant worker orientation. We have migrant workers go through a 2-week pre-departure orientation program to acclimatize them with the cultures and the values, especially of the country where they intend to go. So we approve the departure by issuing a clearance as a ministry, and of course they are ready to go. So this is the cycle of labor migration, you can imagine. So this is at the point at which they exit the country and they go and work for a period of 2 years as stipulated in the contract. Next. This is how we clear migrant workers. The ministry does the clearance within 3 days after undergoing a pre-departure training that I've just talked about. For domestic workers, the ministry has a system that it's connected to called Musaned with the destination country, which clears migrant workers for approval of visa, for issuance of visa. And of course, the ministry is now has digitalized all these processes through the employment and the external employment management information system, which is now done at the airport. Next. These are requirements for clearance. I may not go into detail. What are the benefits? Go to the benefits. Now, these are some of the benefits of externalization of labor for those who have worked. Not that all those who have worked don't have success stories, but these are some of them. The government has earns foreign exchange inflows for the country. Stuart told me to talk about, as a country, we earn approximately $900 million per annum through externalization of labor. Those who have gone, there is an improvement in incomes of the households of the migrant workers. We have had a story of somebody who went and worked and has now a capital of 300 million. They also get new skills on positive work ethics, reduction of pressure on the domestic labor market here. Remember here, I don't know how many students we graduate every year and whether they have the required jobs. So those who go reduce the pressure here. NTR is collected from licenses, application fees. We also have increased revenue from passport fees, over 100 passports. Next. We also have challenges, I'm about to conclude. Inadequate coordination of stakeholders, high numbers of entrants to the labor market, inadequate awareness and knowledge of the migrant workers, limited number of bilateral labor agreements, but we are continuing to negotiate and sign more bilateral labor agreements. Inability to trace and offer consular services to workers deployed by illegal recruiters. And of course, we will have some instances of violation of workers, especially domestic workers, by some employers, but not all. So basically, these are some of the challenges. Do we still have anything? Yes, phenomenon of human trafficking, negative publicity of externalization of labor, lack of effective protection mechanisms for some migrant workers, and of course increased cases of fraud in the labor externalization sector. We have seen many imposters, those who are not licensed, those who are not recognized, and of course lack of consumer presence. But the government is planning to deploy labor attaches in the countries of destination to ensure that we follow up on cases of mistreatment, cases of violence of the migrant workers. Next. Yeah, we have signed, I talked about this. Just move to the next. We already have bilateral agreements. Only companies accredited by Ugandan Mission Abroad can recruit the domestic workers, yes. Yeah, I talked about that monitoring system. Next. This is our complaints. We receive complaints from Office of the Prime Minister, State House Anti-Corruption Unit, MPs, RDCs, NGOs, and even from companies. But of course, at the ministry, we have a complaints handling desk, which handles complaints and helps migrant workers. Each and every case is responded and investigated. Next. There is an association of recruitment agencies, and that is what Mr. Stewart came and talked about. They are in an association. Next. We have sanctions against companies that violate the laws. We recover monies from them through execution of bank guarantees. We suspend their documents. We revoke their licenses. Those reinstated remained under close supervision. And of course, we compel them to repatriate the stranded and the stranded migrant workers from abroad. And we also compel them to pay those who have not been paid because they go under contract. So that is it. Next. So what is our way forward? This is the last slide. Jobs at home is #1 priority. This entails creating the necessary conditions here in Uganda so as to ensure that sustainable livelihoods are available for citizens. This will significantly contribute to addressing the root causes and adverse drivers that compel people to leave their country of origin. Employment targeting. Employment cannot be wished, it must be planned for, and therefore it must be financed. Then secondly, migration abroad is a choice and is not supposed to be made out of desperation. Don't be desperate that you go and work abroad. It is a choice. If you feel you cannot work here or get a job here, that's when you decide. So in the same vein, when one decides to travel abroad, decision should be well informed, hence the need for more sensitization of potential migrants. Next. I think that one summarizes the entire presentation from what I've said. So I want to thank you very much. The time has not been appropriate, but I want to thank in the first place Conrad Adenoa for giving us this opportunity, for inviting the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development to be part of this process, and how I wish the process should be continuous. We have been taking initiatives, moving up in the regions, and sensitizing the youth and their stakeholders on safe labor migration pathways. So I think this is the relationship we want, and I want to encourage this, and I wish that we do have more and more of this engagement. Time has not been our best ally, but I want to thank you for your attention, and I wish you well. Thank you very much.
It's okay. Thank you. I want to apologize to the facilitators. They really prepared their things, and because of time, we've rushed them. But they have done a good job. Let's clap for all of them. I don't want to mention name by name. Participants, thank you for coming. Thank you for being patient. Thank you for being active. This is the first time we have supported this. We are not a funding agency. We just work in partnership with other institutions and individuals who come to us and pitch ideas which are in relation to democracy, security, and innovation. So don't look at us in the donor arm and expect billions. They are not there. We could only afford a little food for you. But I hope you've learned. I hope you've gotten energized and that you've picked ideas. And I know some of you are from institutions, you have to rush back. We apologize for the poor time management on our side, but also on your side. Only one institution kept time. Otherwise, thank you for coming. Thank you for being part of this. May these conversations continue. We hope we shall come again and discuss many other issues with you. Someone has a question, but there is no time. It is important. What is it? As I get someone to... Okay, these people who had to say the final words have escorted people, but...
Thank you so much, Madam Organizer. I have a serious concern that I feel my brother Raymond should listen to. And this man, Stuart. Sir, Bwana Raymond, I'm very glad that you have a very nice regulation book, but I want to make this clear to you before the crowd. Please don't be like police that says bond is for free. But there is no one who has ever been discharged at police without something. I want you to take this to the Ministry of Labor. I swear to the Almighty God, I don't know any company, at least I've tried to travel with different companies, but there is no single company that does not charge. And what have you done as Ministry of Labor? 2, if they don't charge money, they ask for 7 million or 20 or maybe 4, 5, they exploit people through small things like medical checkup. We know they test for STDs and other related diseases, but they charge you 300,000 for medical. Interpol, that we all know that can cost only like 76 Uganda shillings, they ask for 200,000. This organization, Mr. Stewart, I don't know if he's here, and he assures the congregation here that his organization or labor company does not charge people. Please, there is no company that is not charging. You need to do something.
Okay, just one word. The regulation here talks about 20,000 for administrative fee. And to the domestic workers, I told you that the recruitment companies here are paid that money by the recruitment companies. They send them. Interpol is 79,000. We have air ticket fee. We have training for the girls. We have medical. So these are the things we are talking about. We have our labor officer for the municipality here. I would implore that when you hear, because we have shared all, we always call them for the meetings at the national level, because we cannot be there, and because of your proximity. So we work with the labor officers. So please look out for where the office of the labor officer is. He's called Mr. Tom Muhumuza. I know him very well for the municipality here, and get the details. So short of that, you inform us in writing through the permanent secretary of the ministry of any extra charges. Then we shall take it up from there. Otherwise, we apologize. But all this is under Stuart because they regulate the companies. For us, we license the companies as a body of government. Thank you.
Okay. It seems you have some more questions on labor externalization. Should we organize a conversation on that later? On just that aspect? Okay, some students have to go, their buses are here. Thank you for coming. May God bless you as you travel back home. We meet another time. Closing prayer. Mutunzi Robert, come on.